Are outsider national opinions of the Pacers actually fair? Have they correctly identified the Pacers offseason or record for the season? That's what we're going to dive into before looking at some news about the team that you have missed. All coming today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, this episode's pre-recorded. I'll be out of town this weekend, so hopefully I'm not missing any news, and we are talking about the outsider's perspective of what the Pacers have done. I've read some stories this summer about the team predicting how many games they'll win, their offseason grade, and I was like, some of that makes sense, some of that sounds hooey, quite frankly, and I want to decide if it's fair or if the national perspective is off. And I think in some ways, things have been easy for outsiders to correctly get, and in some ways, I'm perplexed in terms of what people think the Pacers' goals should actually be for this season. And we'll dive into all that today. And then at the end, news. Tyrese Haliburton took free throws. What? In basketball shoes? What's going on? Okay, let's start with off-season grades that I've seen for the Pacers this offseason. And let me start by reminding you what I said, which somebody asked me when I did a mailbag at the beginning of August, how I would grade the Pacers offseason, and I said about a 4 out of 10. I don't know why my intuition said go out of 10. Yeah, do out of 10. That's how grades work. Grades are letters. And that also got me thinking when I answered that, every other offseason grade is a letter because people know how grades work, and apparently I don't, has been, not an F. And it made me laugh because in school, a 40% is an F. But like the way I think of offseason grades when I do like numerical compared to a letter grade is like, it's like every increment of 2 numbers is a letter grade. So like 2 or worse is an F, 4 or worse is a D, 6 or worse is a C, etc. It's not like C is actually average, although in this case it is. So I guess when I did this by myself and I said like 4 or 5, I gave them like a C minus, D plus, D range. And then I was like, is that fair? Is that actually true? If I'm giving them a 5, isn't that technically an average C? But I gave them a 4, so it's just barely below that. So what did other people say? Am I crazy? Why did I give them a 4 instead of a letter? Regardless of these philosophical debates, let's go through some. First up, Kevin Pelton in ESPN. I love Kevin Pelton. I know that that's not always a popular take from fans. He gave them a D. He said, it's possible we'll look back and think the Pacers were better off not paying Miles Turner through his mid-30s, and that's true and reasonable. And then he said, but there are no banners for fiscal responsibility, and Indiana lost a key piece to a starting 5 that relied more on fit than sheer talent. The Pacers have no clear replacement for Turner, although I liked taking a flyer on Jay Huff with a similar skill set. Expecting him to start after falling out of Memphis's playoff rotation is unrealistic. Indiana's other traditional centers are also career backups. That is all fair, right? I think that, and when I gave them a grade of a 4, I think the biggest thing of their offseason was Miles Turner, and I think they handled it incorrectly. A lot of fans totally disagree with that, and I get it. But regardless, they are worse, right? Even if you think that they should not have paid him, they're worse. And so if you think they should trade for a center next year and they've added flexibility to do so, maybe that will pay off in the end, and perhaps that's reasonable. But the fact that they now have to trade for a center and give up other assets instead of just having Miles Turner is different. Again, they might end up looking right in the end if the assets they can trade for a different center is like something that's only possible because they don't have Turner, or ducking the tax was somehow meaningful for them this year in terms of their long-term team building. Like, these are all technically realistic paths that would make the fiscal decision make some sense, but it's going to be hard for them to find that center talent without giving up real stuff that they value. So I understand that opinion from Pelton. I might think he's a little lower on the centers that they have or got. It's possible Jackson could get to starter level. It's possible Huff could fit really well and get there, although I do generally agree that they've been career backups. So I think that's fair, but I might have gone a little higher than a straight D. And then let's go to number 2, Yahoo Sports, who author I can't remember, which is not good because I'm supposed to. Ben Rohrbach, one of the best. He also gave the Pacers a D for their offseason. In a move the Pacers did not see coming, the Bucks created enough salary cap space to sign Miles Turner. He says, robbing of Indiana of one of its key cogs en route to the NBA Finals last year. Losing Haliburton to an Achilles was bad enough, but also losing Turner for nothing was devastating. It turned Indiana into just another team in the immediate aftermath of the franchise exceeding all expectations. It is an unfortunate set of circumstances that could not be rectified by the addition of Jay Huff, who played well in spot center duties in Memphis. That sounds very similar to what we just heard from Kevin Pelton about their offseason, right? I don't think it's fair to include the Haliburton part of this at all, right? That they, if anything, their offseason plans should have changed with new information about his injury. So yes, they lost Tyrese Haliburton for the season, but they didn't lose him as in like he's not off the team. They didn't trade him. He didn't sign somewhere else. So it is a weird set of circumstances, as he said. And I agree that Jay Huff will not offset the absence of Turner, but I do think, again, that is a mostly fair assessment of what happened, even though, again, I think that perhaps Jackson is not being valued enough in this discussion at all. Like their center rotation, their backups are better than last year. Thomas Bryant, Tony Bradley behind Miles Turner. That did not get any juice there. No mention, by the way, so far of Cam Jones, of trading back for their own pick for this year, which was a great trade. I talked about that during the finals, of Talon Peter. And it's hard to grade the draft. I understand that. Of Isaiah Jackson or of James Wiseman in any of these. And obviously the big things are the things that influence your grade the most. And the biggest thing was Miles Turner. That draft pick trade was really good and has not been included in either of these things yet. And that was a good trade before Game 7 of the finals and became an amazing trade after Game 7 of the finals and became an even more amazing trade as time has passed. That they should get great marks for, both because of the process and already the result of what happened. So making them move on with the Pelicans, I think, should boost some of these grades even more. And again, get them closer to D+, C- C range than either of the first two grades have given the credit for. And that is where we land on our third offseason grade for the Pacers from the great Shakia Taylor. I don't think Shakia listens to this, but Shakia, if this gets to you, miss you. Hope you're doing well. In The Athletic, Shakia says, it remains to be seen what the Pacers are going to do at center with big man Miles Turner off to Milwaukee. Jay Huff, Tony Bradley, Isaiah Jackson, and James Wiseman are all likely to get playing time. Agreed. The uncertainty at center certainly impacts Indiana's outlook. Shakia, yes, that is all true. C- was her grade for, again, the big thing being Miles Turner leaving the team. So I think that the consensus of national media is that the Pacers offseason was below water, below average in the league. Their outlook is not as good. They lost a starting level player for nothing in return. It's going to be hard to replace that player. That we've discussed. I do think a lot of the margin moves are actually not given enough juice. They gave up nothing of real a second round pick, right, for Jay Huff, who maybe Jay Huff is just going to be a backup, right? And I actually think he should come off the bench for the Pacers. I think Isaiah Jackson should start. I understand if Jay Huff starts, but they got a 3-year cheapo deal, rotation level center for a second and a swap. And he's like a capable player. They gave up a swap for Thomas Bryant. He had half a season left on his deal. They have 3 seasons of Jay Huff. And Jay Huff's better than Thomas Bryant. So that's a shrewd move. The draft pick trade I already mentioned, that's like an A to A+ move before. That was already a B move at worst before everything that's happened since then. And if you have no opinion of Wiseman or the draft picks or any of the other little things that they did, I understand that. But I think that they made enough good things to be like, okay, I understand what they were trying to do in the direction they were trying to go this offseason, but missing on the big thing certainly hurts. Losing a good player certainly hurts. And I think that a lot of the grades are reflective of that. That said, there are a lot of fans listening to me talk right now and hearing all these grades and going, you people are dumb. Miles Turner was bad in the finals. They should not have paid him at all. They are better. Some people think they were just straight up better off for not having him. I don't know if I agree with that, but I there's a loud subset who thinks that'll be better for not giving him that specific contract. Right. And we will see if that proves to be right or not. And it'll depend potentially on who the Pacers get at center instead, or how well Miles Turner plays with the Bucks. And that is why Kevin Pelton gets, to me, the best summary, in that if Miles Turner does not play as well or doesn't age gracefully, that would make the Pacers offseason look a lot better. But I don't think people gave enough credit for their draft pick trade, which technically happened before the offseason if you want to be a stickler. But I think if I were to give a letter grade it would be probably C-. And I think Shakia with The Athletic was the closest there. Let's keep going here by looking at record predictions given to the Pacers for the coming season. Do I think those are fair? One of them, I think, is close to their over-under, but made me think, that's not really fair, but not for the reason the author thinks. What's coming up here on Locked On Pacers? Before we get into any of that, we need to talk about FanDuel. The NFL season is rolling. It's here. Week 1 almost in the books, and FanDuel is making sure you are ready for every single kickoff with their can't-miss offers, including their new one right now. If you're a new customer on FanDuel, you can bet just $5. And if that bet wins, there you go, $300 in bonus bets that you can use across the app. For whatever reason that you might love using FanDuel, they can provide it for you, right? Player props, jumping in on live game action as it's unfolding, building that same game parlay. However you like to bet, FanDuel has a way to make it fit. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy into your Sunday. So, you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making it your first listen today and every single day or second listen. Locked On NBA, the latest and greatest around the association. I'm on every week on Wednesdays. A lot of diving into Eurobasket right now. A lot of pros playing over there. Gosh, I miss the Pacers having Daniel Tyson Eurobasket or someone playing international ball in the offseason, Haliburton, Nembhard, Buddy Hield, somebody. It's so much fun to dive into those games. They have nobody playing this summer. It's brutal. We'll see. They have plenty of Canadians, Johnny Furphy, Haliburton, lots of guys. Maybe Pascal will play with Cameroon one day. Anyway, alas, let's talk about record predictions from outsiders in the land of the Pacers, which is a trickier one, especially right now. It's early September. Maybe some have come out since I record this, but a lot of this is challenging in that the offseason's not really done. There's still some restricted free agents hanging out there. The Nets are probably going to make another trade because they're below the salary floor. There's still stuff to happen. So I guess I get the delay in waiting, but I think that record predictions are fun and interesting. I already did it for the Pacers. I picked them for 42 wins. I understand that I might be a little higher than everybody else, and I understand why. But looking at the outsider perspective, there's one range that I just thought that doesn't really make sense to me. Andy Bailey, love the guy, the way he writes about the league. And he was doing his record predictions and had the Pacers at 36-46. The reason for that being the gap year part of this, losing the starting point guard, losing the starting center. He doesn't think they can get to 500 because of that, even though they have Rick Carlisle, they have talented players and things like that. So I talk to Andy all the time about stat stuff. I understand where he's coming from. I think that, however, any Pacers win prediction in the mid 30s, and maybe this is semantics, right? What is the real difference between high 30s and mid 30s? 3 wins, 4 wins, whatever. But any prediction in the mid 30s seems like a miscalculation of the Pacers' situation and goals for the season. What I mean by that is their upside and hope is, 40, 41, 42, 43 wins, in that they would be trying to win. This is the team they have. They can win this many games. They might make the playoffs with that group, all-star forward, young players ready for more. If that all hits, or if that's all the talent that they have and it's been evaluated correctly, they should be a 40-plus win team. And that would make sense to go that route and perhaps play in a playoff series and learn what your Haliburton-less team can do in that setting. However, I know I just did the anti-tanking, this all sucks thing last week, but if they get to March, name your date, 10th, 15th, 20th, 1st, whatever, and they're out of it, they have shown that they will, or have at least, kind of done the skid, right? Haliburton only played 2 games after March 1st, 3 years ago, whatever it was, right? They had a 10-game losing streak to end the season. And because of that, that seems like it would bring you way below the high 30s, 30, 31, 32 wins. Maybe March isn't a 10-win month, so maybe I'm a little over. I guess you play 6 games in April. Maybe I'm a little overstretching the bands, but to me, a mid-30 season is and that's just to be clear, this is kind of a sucky place for any team to be, but the Pacers specifically, who, if they end up being bad or below where they thought they'd be, whatever that is, by March 1st, because they're going to presumably, or at least their hope would be, ratchet right back up to being pretty good when Tyrese Haliburton's back. Like, they have a unique 1 year window of opportunity to get a crazy or get a better pick than they'd expect, given the trajectory of their team. That might influence them even stronger to do that dive come late in the season. And of course, they could still try to win as long as they morally, I think they should do that, obviously. And of course, they could still try to win all season. And that's why I think most win projections for the Pacers should either be something between, I'm not telling you how to think, this is just what I think. Most win projections should be somewhere between 39 and 43 wins, or like 30, 31, 32 range. Anything between 32 and 39, I'm kind of like, that would be like not lost season, right? There's player development things going on, but given the gap year elements of this that people talk about, and again, I hate that term, but I'll just meet people where they are. Like, that would be a strange season to me. That would just, what would have to happen for that to be the case would be really peculiar and bizarre. But I do at least understand why, what Andy's reasoning is to land on that point. ESPN did their standings projections for the Eastern Conference. Their top 5 teams are the same as my top 5 teams. Maybe not the same order, but their top 5 teams are Cavs, Knicks, Magic, Hawks, and Pistons. Cool. I think that's going to be the top 5 in the East this year as well. Though I'd probably have the Bucks like knocking right on that door, and they have the Bucks 6th. So we have the same top 6. ESPN, is that good or bad? A lot of people do not like ESPN's NBA analysis anymore. I'm still a fan of many of their reporters, but their next group, 6 through 10, that's where they have the Pacers. They have Bucks 6, Celtics 7, Sixers 8, Heat 9, Pacers 10. Eyebrow raised at the Celtics 4 wins ahead of the Pacers. Like, their starting front court's not going to be very good. Maybe Jaylen Brown and the rest of their talent can make them pretty good, but that one was the most interesting one to me. Who knows what the Sixers will be? The Raptors, I think, are going to be good. They have the Raptors in the bottom 5. Whatever. This is not a predict the Eastern Conference standings thing. They did assign records to all these teams. ESPN put the Indiana Pacers at 39 wins in this exercise, half a game above their over-under. They basically have no anything about this except for Haliburton tearing his Achilles and why he projects him to finish in the middle of the pack. Jamal Collier wrote this. Love Jamal. Saw him a million times during the playoffs. Yep, I think middle of the pack is fair. I think 39 wins is like I said, a reasonable landing spot for them on their like try to win portion of the season. So Jamal, thumbs up, and then play-in tournament, and then man, would that be fun? Pacers Heat in the 9-10 game in Miami, and the winner plays Boston or Philly. Not an unreasonable way for the standings to go. But I, again, have them at 42 wins, which in this model would have them as the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, which is coincidentally about exactly where I have them. So I think that's totally reasonable. From Jamal Collier, Greg Schwartz, and ESPN said that the Pacers have no shot of championship this year, which is obviously very true. And their chances to win a title, I believe in their current core is how this is written, is a C grade for that. Because of, in his eyes, their center position being a question mark in the future, which I understand. I think that their title equity should be higher than a C because they were just in the finals and their best players from that team are still around, albeit Siakam is a little older. Not that I'm saying like predicting they'll get back to the finals or anything. It's super hard to do, but that, a little more, I think they earned a little bit more than that with the way they played during the last 2 postseasons when they made the conference finals. In both of them, this is not really a record prediction. It was more about their title and success chances, which I suppose, again, I understand. But, that one is more based on how Haliburton hits a level when he comes back. So I really wanted to do this one to see what the national consensus was. It seems like it's just shy of 40. But this was also a way for me to be like, I think any record prediction between 32 wins and 39, so 33 to 38, doesn't really make sense to me. It just seems like it would be not accomplishing someone's goal for how the season should end. And many more record predictions will come out. Many more offseason grades will come out. But those are the ones that I had found and consumed to this point that I wanted to talk about. And now we got one more round of news to go. And I'll actually finally chew through all the Pacers news and updates to this point in the offseason. That's coming up to close out today's Locked On Pacers. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Time has passed, but check out Locked On Nets. Cam Thomas signed his qualifying offer. Wow. As a restricted free agent. Eric will be breaking down that at Locked On Nets and would have been for many episodes late last week by the time you're hearing this episode of Locked On Pacers. And that's a fascinating situation. And again, every restricted free agent right now, or at least the ones who made it the longest this summer between Thomas, Grimes, Giddey, and Kuminga, at least all of them have something that would make Ben Mathurin at least think, and the Pacers at least think. Okay, let's go news round. Speed round. Number one, Tyrese Haliburton on Instagram posting a video of him shooting free throws with Summer League head coach Isaac Jacob as the rebounder. No boot, no crutches, no running, no jumping. But part look at the shoes, part look at Tyrese Haliburton go already on the free throw grind about 2 months, little over 2 months post-surgery. That was just cool to see. Clearly on the mend, clearly excited about his progress, as he should be. Guys in love with the game. He's going to be posting a lot of videos like that. Two, we have seen position groups together in various social media places. Josh Padmore tweeted one photo, which was what I would call like wings or wing players, wing guards together on the beach. I think Lloyd Pierce's Instagram story had it. Off the top of my head, I believe Furphy, Talon Peter, Aaron Nesmith, Ben Mathurin were all in this photo. Jarris Walker, I believe, was in the photo. I'd have to double check again. I'm sure there are more players there. I saw a video of Nesmith and Mathurin playing like football on the beach. I believe that was in Charleston, South Carolina. So that's one position group, or at least parts of a position group together. And then Jetty Busick tweeted a picture of a lot of the point guards together in Canada. Andrew Nembhard was there. Quentin Jackson was there. Ray J. Dennis was there. Ball movers in general. TJ McConnell not there. They photoshopped him into the picture, which I got a kick out of. But clearly some position grouping is happening. The group in Boostik's photo, now that I'm looking at it, is Cam Jones, Gennaro Pargo's there, Ray J. Dennis, Quentin Jackson, and Andrew Nembhard. And then the group in the Lloyd Pierce photo is Johnny Furphy, Jarris Walker, Ben Mathurin, Talon Peter, and Aaron Nesmith. I batted 1,000 there. I got them all. So I wonder if the centers are somewhere with a different coach. I wonder if we'll see or hear anything about that. But it seems like get back together mode, get ready for camp mode has engaged for the Pacers. Training camp starts late this month. This is September. Actually, this is coming out on a Monday. And then like a certain number of weeks that I believe is 3 from now, you'll be actually hearing from Pacers players and coaches. So there's the time. There is your roster updates to this point, sort of. Actually, let's do more roster stuff because I think we have seen 2 signings the Pacers are going to make be sort of tipped. Maybe not going to make, but potentially going to make be sort of tipped via the boom. People forget about this every year, and they should forget about it. It's a very forgettable thing that happens every offseason, but usually the G League team, and this now for the Pacers, that's the Noblesville Boom. I haven't gotten used to saying that. But usually if your G League affiliate team trades for another player and their G League rights during the offseason, that is often, not always, but often a tip that their NBA team is going to sign that player to an Exhibit 10 deal, and then that player will get a bonus and end up back with the G League team. I don't want to get too in the weeds on Exhibit 10s. People ask about them all the time, but basically it can be converted to a 2-way. It's a 1-year non-guaranteed minimum. But really what it does is it gives you a 78-ish, I think this year, $1,000 bonus if you stay with your G League team for 60 days after getting waived by their NBA team. It's a nice way to give G League players a boosted salary if they want to be in that situation. These trades happen. So, for example, Cam McGriff got Exhibit 10s with the Pacers last year. He got traded away to the Salt Lake City Stars, and the Boom got a first-round pick and the returning rights to Jaden Ledee. However, I think that one was more about the pick in that case. We'll see if Ledee is involved. The ones that stand out to be a little more when the Boom just straight up get a player. They traded Pedro Bradshaw, who I think is good, to the Grand Rapids Gold, and they got Gabe McLaughlin from them. Gabe McLaughlin last year in 42 games was like a nice rebounder, wingy, forwardy type of player. And so we'll see if he's a guy. He's 26. He played at Southeastern Missouri. We'll see if he's a guy that the Madden's bring in. The more interesting one to me, though, is the most recent Boom trade, late August 29th. They got Jalen Slauson in a deal with the Birmingham Squadron. Great team name. Garrison Brooks, his returning rights went to the Squadron. Jalen Slauson played in the NBA before he was with the Kings in 2023-24 for 12 games. He was a second-round pick in 2023, 6'7" wing, 25 years old. That's like a talented player for the Boom to have, and you need those guys around the other NBA guys. But if you're going to be sending your two-way guys down there to develop, you want them playing with like real talent, guys that can actually help them improve by being good players, by knowing what they're doing. Jalen Slauson is talented. So keep an eye on any of those names that they got for Exhibit 10. It's not a guarantee, but if the Boom trade for them, which it seems like was the case with Slauson, and perhaps that trade with Grand Rapids, but maybe that one was about the pick in the Cameron Griff trade. Keep an eye on those guys for Exhibit 10s. And speaking of the Boom, let's pivot from updates about people and players to updates about schedule, stuff you can see, stuff you can do. Basketball is coming. We talked about the Pacers schedule. The Boom schedule is out, which is fun and new because it's in Noblesville, Indiana, for the first time after being in Fort Wayne and then downtown the last 2 years. The first ever Noblesville Boom game is on November 7th in Grand Rapids. It's a road game, but then they play Grand Rapids at home the very next day. So the first game in Noblesville, Indiana is on November 8th. They play 7 home games before Christmas and then a very home-heavy schedule in March, a decently home-heavy schedule in February. So a lot of later home games for the Boom. Their first season in a new home. The arena looks awesome. In the rendering pictures I've seen, I have not been able to go yet. I really, really want to see it. But anyway, the Boom schedule's out. You can see it on their website if you're interested in that, because now they have perhaps some local appeal, and they can play games at times that people can go to them more often. They played a lot of noon games downtown because they were sharing the arena. Now they are not doing that. I have not mentioned this on this show. I've done the Pacers schedule and the Boom schedule. The Pacers preseason schedule is out. Maybe I did say it and I forgot, but they got rid of it's different than normal. That every year it felt like for forever it was some combination of Memphis, Cleveland, and Charlotte and Houston, and sometimes Atlanta. This year it's all West teams. It's at Minnesota on October 7th. Home games for OKC and San Antonio on October 11th and 13th, and then at San Antonio on October 17th. There's no real takeaways from a preseason schedule, right? Their usual 2 at home, 2 on the road. In the past, they've done the first 2 on the road, the last 2 at home. But I do think, one, it's funny that they are doing the Spurs twice, so they get that extra Spurs game back after they played in Paris last year, and nobody could see Wemby in Indy, and nobody could see the Pacers in San Antonio. But 2, a finals rematch in the preseason. That Timberwolves game is what it is. Maybe Obi Toppin will have a bajillion points in that game as well. But that is the Pacers preseason schedule, which means the day that this is coming out, which I believe is the 8th, we are less than a month away from the Pacers suiting up for a real game. Can you believe it? Okay, I'll be back from my short little trip away to DC tomorrow. So tomorrow's show will be about the Locked On Top 100 players that came out. We did a project where we all ranked our top 100. Full disclosure, Pacers players ranked okay. I think some of their role guys are a little too low. We'll talk about it. Too low as in like their number should be lower. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Looking forward to doing that. And then we'll get into some of our guest stuff that I have for this week. Very excited for all that. Thank you all so much for listening. You can find me on social media at Tony R. East and this podcast at Locked On Pacers. Back tomorrow talking more about the Pacers. Till then, everybody, have a wonderful day.